From claymation to 3D animation and what's the next generation, who knows? But Sacramento Film Works is your one-stop shop for all things filmmaking. I'm your host, Klein Moore.
And I'm your co-host, Kenesha Allen. Sit tight and stay tuned because we've got an amazing show lined up for you today.
Welcome back to Sacramento Film Works. Now, Kenesha, have you ever gone to a film and you were looking forward to it, but you got there and it wasn't all that, yet the reviewers said that it was still the movie of the year? Or just the opposite, looking forward to a movie, maybe you go, you loved it, but then the reviewers gave it the thumbs down. Who are these critics and what are they doing?
Well, I'll tell you, it takes a lot of talent. And these folks are film critics, and today we're going to figure out just exactly what they do. I'd like to welcome Miss Carla Meyer to the show.
Thank
Welcome.
you.
Absolutely.
Thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Sure.
So let's jump right in. What is a film critic?
A film critic reviews films, and also in my particular job, I write a lot of features as well and interview people.
Okay.
Okay, now the first thing though, everyone's got an opinion, right? But what qualifies a critic to go on and publicize what they think and then thereby possibly motivate people to go or not to a show?
That's a question that I'm asked frequently by readers. What qualifies you to review this movie? And I would say experience. I have probably 15 years of experience. Also, I've taken film classes, and I have opinions, and I am not afraid to give them. And I think that a lot of people will give opinions, but they aren't able to necessarily write them on deadline, and I can do that, luckily. So I feel like I have gained a lot of expertise, and I feel like I have also, I'm looking out for the reader, you know, and I'm looking out for my audience.
Yeah, I mean, and movie tickets are like $20 now, $20 a person.
Sometimes for IMAX.
And don't be hungry when you go.
Right.
Exactly.
Right. So is there some sort of a, part of it I assume is opinion, but is there some sort of a rubric or something that you're using to kind of go through?
Yeah, you know, and it actually depends on the movie and what the movie's trying to achieve. But what I try to do is what I always say is I go into every film, it starts out at 4 stars and then it has to work its way down.
Oh, nice.
And so I try not to go in if I'm going to see Anchorman and think, well, this is just a dumb movie. It can't possibly be a 4-star movie, because there have been comedies that have been kind of goofy comedies that I've given 4 stars based on what they are. Now, if you have a movie, a serious drama like 12 Years a Slave, that's trying, and in the case of that film, achieving something much more serious than just a comedy.
Sure. So you go in with a sense of optimism. Hopefully you don't want to
do.
waste your time either, right?
I don't.
But so my question really is getting to the heart of it. What are the things you look for? And maybe we could take a film that you recently reviewed and really step by step kind of go through, how do you go about it? Because obviously people want to know.
Yes, certainly, and in terms of going about it, I'm basically looking to see whether I am involved in the film, no matter how long it is, because a film can only be 80 minutes long and completely bore me. If I'm engaged in it, that counts for a lot. It kind of has to entertain me, and but I don't always think just of me. I think about what the general movie audience would like to see and what they're expecting. So, and sometimes you would actually like to be, if it's a really good film, you're sort of educated by it too. Sure. And that's great, or wowed by it, which is terrific too.
At the very least, entertained.
Yeah, I think the very least is engagement. The very least. And I remember, because I see so many films, I remember when I saw The Social Network, that I forgot I was there for about 40 minutes. I was just completely caught up in it, and that was really unusual because when you are critiquing something, you're always looking for things. So you don't just watch it necessarily as a viewer. You know, I'll watch things on my own that I'm not critiquing at all. But when you go in, you're thinking, okay, I'm going to point out this part of it, I'm going to point out that part of it. But sometimes things are so good that you don't even think that. It just catches you up in it.
So, I mean, that is a talent within itself, to be watching a movie and not just for entertainment purposes, but to be watching for these things. So how do you walk the fine line of watching a movie at home and not critiquing it, and then watching a movie that you're supposed to be critiquing, and then
Or do you critique everything?
To be truthful, I critique everything,
Okay.
but lightly.
Okay.
You know, and I will be watching a film with friends or who, and they'll laugh, and I'll take it apart a little bit, but I try not to because I want to enjoy it too. And I mean, I watch tons of television shows, and I cover television stuff too, where I have no interest in critiquing it. I just have, you know, I watch lots of shows that if I chose to critique them, I wouldn't want to really watch them anymore.
Now, before we get into an individual film and kind of pick it apart, how often are you in line with the Academy?
I actually am in line with the Academy fairly often, except for what happens with the Academy is the voters tend to only really think about films that just came out in the Oscar month, which is October, November, December. And I tend to, some of my favorites for like from the summer, and they're considered really great. Like there's a couple movies from this summer. One was called The Spectacular Now, one's Fruitvale Station, which were just considered, you know, like they had Oscar shots in the summer, but then as the big movies come out, they have a short memory. And so, and they also have more of a memory for things that really get promoted to them as something to see. And I'm not criticizing them, but that's just how it goes. So what happens is, I think things are going to go a certain way, but then I know that they'll change. And also you can, but you can really feel when something has momentum. Like right now, you could feel that American Hustle had momentum, whereas it didn't have it before. So I because I keep abreast of it, because I write about it, I always kind of have a good sense of how they're going to vote. But in my personal opinions, I think I would probably nominate 10 documentaries for Best Picture.
Really?
I love documentaries. So.
Okay. Well, let's get into, I know recently you reviewed Wolf of Wall Street. So.
Yeah, that was an interesting one because I had just been saying, because I do other things at work, and so I just sort of choose. I don't review everything, but I do all the big movies and everything that it probably has Oscar potential, yes. And I had just been saying to my editor, I was thinking, gosh, I'm tired of only reviewing good movies, because that's really hard to write about, to just say, oh, this is good and this is good and this is good. I mean, it's not really hard, it's great and it's wonderful, but it's really fun. And I thought Wolf of Wall Street was going to be a good movie, and then it wasn't, which was very exciting, because then I actually got to truly, you know, criticize it. And it's nominated for Oscars, and I don't understand why. And Martin Scorsese directed it, so it's going to get nominated for an Oscar.
Wow. Just because, right?
Well, not. I mean, I gave it 2 stars out of 4. You know, I really like Leonardo DiCaprio. So I've never seen him give a bad performance, and he gives a great performance in this. It's not him. It's the film.
Okay. So is it kind of like the production part of it, or the producing and the writing has a lot more to do with it than the acting? Is that the kind of...
You know, most cases, there's so many things that go into it. It is the producing, the writing, and the point of it. You know, when you have an Oscar season film come out, and you have these very serious films, you have films like 12 Years a Slave, and not as serious, but still a poignant film like Nebraska come out, and then you have just this bacchanalian, just sort of really excessive film come out, you expect more. You expect more from Scorsese, you do. And even though he's never had his characters have to be, they don't have to be sympathetic, and they usually aren't. There is sort of a morality tale usually at play. And this one was very surface, if there was one at all, and it wasn't 3 hours worth, basically.
Well, we know what Hollywood knows what sells, right?
Yeah.
And we know that sometimes they're going to just fit the formula, and people will go, and they'll pay, and they'll see it, and they'll love it. So my question, how much of then what you're thinking is echoed by some of the other critics, or do you ever look at what they say and help you form opinions? Maybe they see something you don't, or you see something they don't.
No, because I am too susceptible to suggestion. So if someone says they'll even pointing out factors, and I've noticed that I don't read reviews of movies. Occasionally I have when it's something that I can't find anything about, and I need to find some information about it, and I'll try to have that be my guide and how to get that information, but I don't find it helpful. I will read them after I've written my review, but a lot of times, there's not a lot of time to read other people's reviews because you've seen it the night before, or sometimes that day, and you just have to turn around your review. Well, we have fairly early deadlines. So no, I don't, but I will sometimes read. I don't even read the advanced stuff, like advances and interviews. I will sometimes read that, but that's also more sort of informational, because I really have found that, so I guess some people can completely block out ideas, but I can't. So I like to absolutely form completely my own opinions.
And we're going to wrap up on that note, but we'll be back in just a moment with some questions from our studio audience. Sacramento Film Works is sponsored by the Northern California Filmmakers Coalition, which provides filmmakers an opportunity to learn and network with professionals in the filmmaking industry in the Sacramento region. Join us each Wednesday at 6 p.m. at Access Sacramento, 4623 T Street, Suite A. We'll see you in the movies. And we're back with Sacramento Film Works and our guest film critic, Carla Meyer, and we're going to Kenesha in our studio audience.
Thank you, Klein. So we've obviously got to ask good questions of Carla, but our studio audience has a few questions too.
Hello, my name is Jean, and my question is, while you are critiquing a movie, at what point do you feel it is not going to be a good movie? What are some of the signs?
I tend to. It's a certain feeling that I think you probably get to when you watch a movie. Is there can be just a flatness, a dead in the water quality to a film when it comes on. Even like the opening titles aren't right. It's just that there are occasions where it's just not right from the beginning, and then other times you'll just notice that there will be problems with the acting. The special effects aren't very good. The story's not really going anywhere. The jokes fall flat. There's all sorts of indicators, and it can be probably about, I like to give it a good 40 minutes before I think this isn't a very good movie, because as I said, there are the bounce backers.
Okay.
You know, there's those that rebound toward the end, so they're never out of it. You know.
That happens a lot on Netflix.
Thank you.
Well, that's the thing about Netflix too, is I think we've become accustomed to, with the streaming, you get on one thing, and if it doesn't get your interest right away, you go on to the next thing. And so movies have a captive audience because the audience has bought a ticket to that film, but still that sort of attention span that need to be entertained is ingrained in us now. And so they've got to come out and get going pretty quickly.
Yeah, short attention spans, huh? Okay, our next question here.
Oh, sorry. My name is Aleem Shabazz.
Hi.
Now, What happens when somebody criticizes what you say was either a good or bad movie?
Well, if they criticize, if they think I'm wrong.
Yes.
Did you get a backlash from actors
sure.
or studios?
I don't. Actually, I'm trying to think because there are so many. The Sacramento Bee is just one newspaper out of many, and millions, or not millions, but thousands of outlets that are reviewing something. And so, no, they tend to not at that level, at the Hollywood level, they tend to not get back to you. But I've had some correspondence with people for smaller films. A lot of people with smaller films that I maybe needed to, that I'm helping out a little bit if I give them a good review. And I one time there was this woman who is a director, and I really liked her, and I used to interview her a lot, and I gave her film 3 stars out of 4, but apparently she's like sent me a note about it and said, well, I'm glad that you liked it, but I don't really understand what you were saying about this one thing. And this is a pretty big director. And I thought, wow, so you're actually going through every review, and but I kind of knew her a little bit already, and we went back and forth on it. And that was interesting, and that's happened a couple of times where people say, "Well, thank you overall, and I think you made some good points, but I don't understand why you said this." And like, here's what I said, and then they sort of explain what the circumstances were. It's really fascinating because you never know just watching a film what went into making it, and what choices were made, and you can think. And I try to think about that too. Not just second guess and say, oh, well, it would have been easy to do that instead, when in fact it probably wasn't. That idea probably came to the filmmaker as well, but circumstances didn't allow it to go that way. Mm-hmm. Film production is a very expensive business, and sometimes you have to make some compromises, and sometimes people notice it,
And speaking of the money, a review then can really sway folks to either go out and support a movie or not. So you guys actually have a lot of power.
I think so, more so for the smaller films. And I think also if you develop a sort of relationship with your audience, they'll say to me, okay, well, I sort of will know if you like this. And I think that too, with a big blockbuster film, I'm not sure if I say, oh, I don't like the way that person's hair was in Batman, that's going to keep me, you know what I mean? But I wouldn't mean even like a bigger criticism. But I think, yeah, definitely, and I hear that from a lot of people, that especially this film, Osage, August Osage County, the Meryl Streep and Julia Roberts, people really responded to that, and they said that they went to see it because of my review. So that's nice.
Okay, awesome. So we've got one more question here.
Hi, my name's Arlene.
Hi, Arlene.
Did you know early on that you wanted to be a movie critic?
I didn't know it, but there were signs, because when I was I'm from this little town near Bakersfield, and when I had my own subscription to the LA Times on Friday so I could read the movie reviews. And I would, and I was always really into film. And I ended up getting into sports instead. I'm writing about sports, but I was always. I never thought I never really thought, because it was kind of my love, that I would end up doing it, because that doesn't happen a lot. Yeah. Most of the time you have things that are like your big recreation that you're really into, but you don't think that you'll get to have that be your profession. So that it was almost too much to think about actually doing that, So I thought about it in a way like it would be great, but I didn't actually know I was going to do it.
Okay, so kind of piggybacking off of that then, what's one of the most challenging things about your job?
The challenging part about doing movie reviews is when a film is just straight down the middle. Just you can't discredit it, and I'm not that I would discredit films, but you can't really praise it, and you can't just go to town, criticizing it. So you've got to be really balanced about it, and everything's like, well, this is good, but this is good, but that's a challenging review to write. And I talked to actually my friend's a theater critic at the Bee. And we agree on that. He'll say, oh, it's a mediocre one, and we know how that is. It's a hard thing to figure out what to write. not hard like laying brick, but hard enough.
Well, ultimately, people need to decide for themselves, but thanks for giving us a direction to go with and to have the benefit of your opinion, and really appreciate you coming on the show.
Thank you. Thanks so
and-
much
and
for
giving
having
us
me.
insight. Good.
Thank you. Thank you, Carla. So up next, we're going to go into the Spotlight segment of our show where we highlight local talent.
If you'd like to be a member of our studio audience, to meet and greet film industry professionals, visit our website at ncfc.tv.
Welcome back to the Spotlight segment of our show. Today we have two guests, and they've got a lot of accolades. One of them is a production manager. He works closely with the Kings, and he's a percussionist. And the other one, she's a bad girl. She's got a black belt. And she also owns a cafe here in Sacramento. I'd like to welcome Mr. Jason Jong to the show and Miss Shannon Park. Thank you guys for coming on.
Thank you for having us.
Okay, so you guys are working on a project together right now that is based around bringing the community together, right?
That's right. It's the Sacramento Asian Pacific Film Festival.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about it.
Well, it started as an idea by a friend of mine. He's a local actor, and we met again at our 20-year high school reunion. I was born and raised here, Kennedy High. And we looked at our communities and how we're really not as connected as we could be. In other areas, we have arts and cultural spaces, venues for the Asian and Pacific Islander community, but what we noticed and what our group of friends have noticed is that we really don't have a space to share our arts, to share our traditional and contemporary art forms, film being one of the most immediate types of art forms out there. We decided that we'd put together a festival to showcase local talent and to feature films that really speak to the interests of our diverse Asian and Pacific Islander communities.
Okay. And Shannon, you're playing a part in helping to get the word out, right?
Yes. Jason told me about his idea, and I've always enjoyed the arts and really loved the arts and wanted to do whatever I could to support the arts.
Okay, awesome. So you have a restaurant, and you're doing like promotion for the event. And so you're going to start that the beginning of each month. So tell us a little bit about that.
So basically what we're trying to do is we're trying to raise funds for the festival.
Okay.
And so what we're doing is we're doing a community night at a restaurant, and a percentage of the proceeds is going to go directly back into the festival.
Okay, and the restaurant is, by the way, River's Edge.
It's called River's Edge Cafe.
River's
Yes.
Edge
We're here in
Cafe.
Sacramento.
Okay. So Jason, part of the proceeds are going to go to kind of building a building, right? Didn't you mention that to me earlier about?
Well, the building, the entertainment space is a long-term vision.
Okay.
The film festival, it's along a continuum of programming and activities that would support the Asian and Pacific Islander arts community, whether it's dance performances, open mic nights, music series. The film festival is the flagship project of the Sacramento Asian Pacific Cultural Village. And so it's a building collective of folks who are like-minded, who really want to keep talent here, to support local artists of all genres. So the long-term vision is for a space of our own that our communities can come together and collaborate and learn and share and celebrate their art forms. But the film festival is what we have our first our sights on as our first big kind of contribution to the arts community here.
Okay, awesome. You and I spoke before, and we talked about how Sacramento is so big and there's so many
Right.
different communities. And then you look at like the Bay Area, where there's one film festival going on and everyone's there because it's such a small area. So Sacramento, I mean, what's the strategy to bring it all together and tie it in?
Well, so it's not just Shannon and myself. We have a lot of really great folks on the ground level. We're making some good connections with UC Davis, Sac State, City College, some of the other community colleges. We're sharing our vision with influential folks, folks on the ground, folks who have their pulse on different facets of the community. So that's our first part of the strategy, is to get the word out, and to share our vision and to communicate that vision with our supporters.
Okay, there's definitely a need for it. So kind of ending off, where do you guys see the festival and the art space? Where do you guys see it in like 5 years?
Well, you know, the sky's the limit. I think that we really need to retain talent here in our city, whether it's coming from the community colleges or the local universities, or just basic, you know, homegrown garage band talent.
Right.
And I think that we need to create those opportunities for those creators and to highlight them. So I would love to see the film festival grow. This year it's going to be held in May 30th and 31st at the Crest Theater.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be held in conjunction with Asian Pacific American Heritage Month, a nationally recognized month. And we hope to encourage other folks to join us and to share their events with us.
Okay, perfect. So how do people keep in contact with you guys? I mean, how can they find out about the film festival and other projects that you've got going on?
Well, one good way is Facebook. You can search for us, Sacramento Asian Pacific Film Festival. You can also go online. Our website is www.sapff.org. And you can also find us on Twitter and reach us by our office line, 916-776-6036.
Okay, awesome. And then Shannon, the restaurant or the cafe is located where, in case people want to come and celebrate the first one?
We'll probably have a party there, before or after party. We'll figure something out. But we're on 8740 La Riviera Drive. We're in Sacramento, and our website is www.riversedgecafeonline.com.
Okay, awesome. Thank you guys so much for coming on the show. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
And that's our show for today. Sacramento Film Works is brought to you in conjunction with Access Sacramento and the Northern California Filmmakers Coalition. We'd like to thank our studio audience, all of you watching at home, and our wonderful guests. I am your host, Klein Moore.
And I'm your co-host, Kenesha Allen, and you've been watching Sacramento Film Works, where we show you how film works.